Assalamu alaikum students. How have you been so far? Hope you all are doing great with the grace of Almighty. I am also fine. Today we are going to do science class. I am Sonia Akhtar, teacher of Milestone Preparatory KG School, Uttara, Sector 7. We have started the second chapter. The chapter name is Plants and Animals. You have already got 2 lectures on this class. In the previous class, the topic you have learned is the reading practice from page 16 to 19, book exercise, book activities, some difficult words. Then you have learned fill in the blanks and short question answer. In today's class, we are going to discuss broad question answer. So before starting the discussion on broad question answer, I want to take the feedback from the previous class. So let's see the questions. So the first question is, what is called nest? So what will be the answer? So the answer will be, nest is one of the example of shelter. Nest is the shelter of bird. Second question is, what are the examples of wetland habitat? So the examples are pond, river are the example of wetland habitat. The third question is, what is the location of polar habitat? Means where is polar habitat situated? So what is the location? The polar habitat is situated in farthest northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. If you do not write that word farthest, then you are going to lose some marks. Question number 4 is, a dash is a place with many trees that grow densely. Can you tell me what will be the answer? Okay. So the answer will be, a forest is a place with many trees that grow densely. Number 5, a camel stores dash in its hump. What will be the answer? The answer will be, a camel stores fat in its hump. So let's move to our today's discussion class of broad question answer. Let's have a quick review what are the topics we have learned in this chapter. So at first we have learned about the differences between plants and animals. We have learned that how their food making process, their body parts and their movement processes are different. Like plants can make their own food, but animals are dependent on plants for making their food. The body parts of plants are root, stems, leaves, etc. On the other hand, the body parts of plants are head, eyes, limbs, etc. And how do plants move? They cannot move. They stay in one place. They are rooted to ground. But animal can move from one place to another by using their limbs. Okay. But if it's a fish, they use their fins for movement. That's how they move from one place to another. Then we have learned about plants in the environment. How different plants grow in different environment. For example, for mango tree, the mango tree needs bright sunny place to grow. Then again, water lily needs water to grow. So different plants need different environment to grow. Then again, colmi needs both water and soil. It can grow both in water and soil. So different plants requires different environment to grow. There are also some plants that can grow well in salty environment like shunduri. After that, we have learned about the animals in environment. Animals need different environment to live. For example, rabbit lives in burrows, whereas earthworm lives under the soil. They live inside the soil. And for example, crocodiles can live in the water. So different animals also need different environment, different habitat to survive. Think of a bird. Where do they live? They live on trees. They make their house or they make their nest on trees. That's how they are surviving. After that, we have learned about the diversity of plants and animals based on their habitat. We have learned there are 5 habitats: desert habitat, forest habitat, wetland habitat, ocean habitat, and polar habitat. In every habitat there are specific plants and animals that are surviving. Think of the desert. Desert is an extremely dry place with very little water and rain. Some spiny shrubs can grow there, for example cactus. Cactus can survive there, but if you think of a plant that grow in our country, it cannot survive in a desert habitat, because different plants need different environment, different habitat. They can grow in different habitat. So how the cactuses are surviving in a desert habitat? You should know that cactuses have spines, so spiny shrubs need less water than other plants with leaves. Also, cactus have a smooth outer surface which helps it to protect from water loss. Also, cactuses are called succulent kind of plants. That means it can store the water when the water is available. Then we have learned about forest habitat. A forest is a place with many trees and animals. This is one of the best habitat for the survival of plants and animals. Then we have learned about the wetland habitat, example of wetland, and the animals of wetland habitat. What are the examples of wetland? Ponds, canals are the example of wetland habitat. Now, after that, we have learned about the ocean habitat. What is the ocean? Ocean is a reservoir of salty water. The waters are extremely salty. There are also specific animals and plants that grow in ocean habitat. For example, dolphin, whales can survive in salty water. And the example of plants are seaweed. Then we have learned about polar habitat. Polar region is extremely cold and ice covered place. Also, the animals that are living in polar region, it is not possible to live in other region because they are specifically made to survive in that area by the nature. For example, the plants like pine tree can grow in polar habitat, and the animals are polar bear, penguin. How they are surviving in this extreme cold environment? To protect themselves from this extreme cold weather, these animals have very thick skin, and their bodies are covered with fur. Or what do you do in winter? You wear sweater to protect yourself from the cold. But they already have this naturally. They have thick skin and their body is covered with fur to protect themselves from this extreme cold weather. So that's how different animals are surviving in different habitat in different process. After that, we have learned about the effect of environment on the living things. So we can divide this effect in two sides, like good side, good effect of environment on animals or living things, and bad effects of environment on living things. How? What are the good effects? The good effects is we get all the necessary things from the environment. We need water, we need food, we need shelter, everything we get from the environment. So what is the bad effect? Bad effect is we are changing the environment. This changed environment has a bad impact on our life or on the living things. How the environment is changing? The environment is changing because of human activities. For example, we are cutting down trees, we are clearing forest, we are constructing buildings, we are producing too much carbon dioxide, but we are not planting trees. So that's how human activities are changing the environment. Again, natural disasters can also change the environment. For example, flood, storm, drought, these all have a bad impact on the environmental change. So sometimes it happens that human activities and natural disasters are destructing the habitats of plants and animals. So what happens then? Then that plants and animals lost their habitat. As a result, maybe they die or they leave the place. If animals do not get their food to eat, what will happen? They will die. So loss of or destruction of habitat is reducing the number of animals or plants. If it starts reducing and we cannot stop it, a time comes that when there will be no species left, no number of that species will left. In that condition we call it extinction. Extinction means dying out or termination of an animal or plants. That means no plants or animal is left on this earth of that species. In our country, king vulture Lal Sher got extinct, and nowadays Tali palm tree and Royal Bengal tiger are endangered. Endangered means if we do not protect them, they will also get extinct. So now we can discuss the broad question answer. As we have reviewed the whole chapter, now we can talk about the broad question that can come from this chapter. Our today's classwork number is 8. We are going to discuss the broad question answer of chapter 2. The chapter name is Plants and Animals. Let's see the question list. The first question is, how does cactus survive in the desert habitat? Second question is, what is the result of environmental change? Third question is, in which region penguin lives in? What are the characteristics of that region? Number 4 question is, write 5 lines about salty environment of Bangladesh. Number 5, what are the differences between plants and animals? So let's start the discussion. The first question is, how does cactus survive in the desert habitat? So in this chapter we have learned about 5 types of habitat: desert habitat, forest habitat, wetland habitat, ocean habitat, and polar habitat. And we have also learned that in different habitats there can different plants and animals can survive there. In this question they are asking that how does cactus survive in the desert habitat? You know that cactus is the plant that can survive in the desert habitat because there is very less water and very little rain. So how they are surviving? That you will have to answer. So if we see the picture of a cactus, we can see that there are a lot of spine. This spine actually protect the cactus from the water loss. The plant which has spine need less water than the plants with leaves. So it has a lot of spine, so it can protect from the water loss. Again, if we see the plant, we will be able to understand that its stem and leaves are very thick. That's why it is called succulent types of plant. Succulent means it can store the water, or it is thick and it can store the water when it's available, so that it can use in future when the water is not available. And if we also observe the plant, we can understand that it has a smooth outer surface or a waxy outer surface. What do we do in winter? We apply Vaseline on our skin so that our skin does not lose the water, so that we do not get dry. The same thing happens, that it has a smooth or waxy outer surface so that it can protect the water loss. So that's how it is surviving in the desert habitat, though a desert is a dry place with very little water and rain. So if we gather all those information, then we can write the answer of this question. So let's see how we can write the answer. At first you can tell that how is the environment of this habitat. Desert is an extremely dry place with very little water and rain. Some spiny shrubs, such as cactus, grow in this environment. The stem and leaves of this plant are succulent, and its smooth outer surface helps to retain the water. Retain means hold. Retain water means it can hold the water. So in this way, cactus can survive in the desert habitat. So I hope you can write this answer if it comes in the exam. Second question is, what is the result of environmental change? To answer this question, at first we have to know what are the causes of environmental change. There are two reasons that are changing the environment: natural disaster and human activities. So what is the result of environmental change? This environmental change are resulting in destruction of the habitat of many plants and animals. As a result, they are getting extinct. Do you know the meaning of extinction? Extinction meaning the dying out or termination of a plant or animals. That means there is no animal or plant is left on earth of that species. So on this earth once there were dodo bird and Tasmanian tiger, but now they are not here. They got extinct because their habitat got destructed, maybe because of natural disasters or maybe because of human activities. In our country there were Javan rhinoceros and Lal Shir, but even they got extinct. Again, why? Because their habitat got destructed, maybe because of natural disaster or because of human activities. Now if we do not take care of tali palm tree and Royal Bengal tiger, even they can got extinct because they are now endangered. If we do not take care of these two things, then even they will lose their habitat and they will got extinct. So we have to take care of the number of these two species. So how we can write this answer properly? Again, gathering all those information, we can arrange the question answer. So let's see how we can write this answer. The environmental changes cause the destruction of habitats of plants and animals. Thereby, plants and animals might die or some of them might become extinct, such as dodo bird and Tasmanian tiger. And in Bangladesh, Javan rhinoceros and Lal Shir became extinct. So tali palm tree and the Royal Bengal tiger are endangered at present condition. See, I have arranged all those information and I have written the answer of this question. The similar way you can write the answer of this question in your own language. I am just giving you the guideline that how can you write the answer. So let's move to the next question. So third question is, in which region penguin lives in? What are the characteristics of that region? Now in the picture you can see a picture of a polar habitat. So at first you should know what is the location of a polar habitat. The location of a polar habitat is farthest northern hemisphere and farthest southern hemisphere. If you see the picture, you can see that an imaginary line, which we call equator, divides the earth on two equal parts, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Hemisphere means half of the sphere. Now the location of polar habitat is to the farthest of northern hemisphere and to the farthest of southern hemisphere. You should mention the word farthest. Now what are the animals that live in this habitat? The animals are penguin and polar bear. How they are surviving in this extremely cold habitat? They are surviving because they have very thick skin and their skin or body is covered with fur, which protect them
from extremely cold environment? So let's answer to this question. Let's again read the question. In which region penguin lives in, and what are the characteristics of that region? So at first we should answer that penguin lives in polar habitat. Next part is what are the characteristics of that region. So the characteristics are polar region is extremely cold and ice covered place of Earth, which is situated at the farthest northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. So what are the plants of that habitat? Pines and few grasses are the plants of that area, and animals are polar bear and seal. To protect themselves from the extreme cold weather, this animal have very thick skin and are covered with fur. So that's how you can write this question answer. So let's move to the question 4. So number 4 question is, write 5 lines about the salty environment of Bangladesh. So you have learned in this chapter a lot of information about the salty environment of Bangladesh. From those information you have to just write 5 sentences for this question answer. Now, what are the things you can include in this answer? At first you can say that which one is the environment, which one is the salty environment. Then you can talk about the plants of that environment. You can also add the special characteristics of that plant, and you can also add other examples of plants that are living in the salty environment. So let's see how we can answer this question. Some plants grow in the salty environment. Sundarban is such kind of environment in Bangladesh. The plants grow in this environment are different from other regions. Why? Because they have one special characteristics, which is pneumatophore. What is pneumatophore? Do you know that? Pneumatophores are root, but special kind of root. Why they are special? Because we know that roots stay under the ground, but this kind of root, that means pneumatophores, comes upward from the soil or from the water, because of extremely salty water or the environment, they cannot exchange the gases. So to help the plant to exchange the gases, the roots come upward of the soil or the water, and these kind of special roots are called pneumatophore. So this is the special characteristics of the plants that survive in the salty environment. There are some example of plants that live in salty environment. They are Sundari, Goran, Kaura, and the examples. There are some other plants that live on the big trees. They take the nutrition from the bigger trees. They are Shonolata and Rasna, etc. So that's how from a lot of information you can write 5 sentences and you can answer to this question. So here I am adding a video. The video will make you more clear about the concept of pneumatophore, and it will show you how is the environment of Sundarban or how is the salty environment. Sundarban is a forest, so it is the one of the best place for the survival of plants and animals. So here, what is the main characteristics of plants? The main characteristics of plants is they have pneumatophore. Pneumatophore means special kind of root that comes upward so that plants can do the gaseous exchange. They cannot exchange gases because of the extreme salt in the water. So now we can see the pneumatophore. See, these are the roots, and these roots have come out from the ground. so that these plants can exchange the gases that they are not being able to do because of the salt of the water. So this is the special characteristics of the plant of the salty environment. So you can see that how many roots are coming out of the ground. Question number 5 is, what are the differences between plants and animals? So if we want to differentiate between plants and animals, then we can talk in different aspects. We can talk on how the plants and animals are getting energy, or what are their body parts, or how are they moving from one place to another. So in these points we can differentiate plants from animals. There are many more. So let's see at first that how they are getting the energy. We already know plants get the energy from sunlight. By using the sunlight energy with the help of carbon dioxide and water, they make food. By eating those food, plants, animals and humans get the food, they eat the food, then they get the energy. So what is the source of energy for the plants? It is sunlight. And the source of energy for the human or animal is food. Next is, what are the body parts of a plant? The body parts of the plant are leaves, stem, root. We also see fruits and so on. But for the animals, we can see head, eyes, limbs. Limbs means hands, legs, etc. So these are the body parts of animal. So this is the differences between the body parts of plants and animals. Another thing that we can talk is, how are they moving? Plants cannot move from one place to another. They stay in one place and they are rooted to the ground. But the animal can move from one place to another by using their limbs. So these are the differences between a plant and an animal. We can arrange the informations and we can write the answer properly. So what are the differences? First one is, plants get energy from sunlight and animals get energy from food. Second point is, the body part of plants are root, stem and leaves. On the other hand, the body parts of animals are limbs, eyes, ears and mouth. Third point is, plants are rooted in one place. On the other hand, animals can move from one place to another. So this was the very easiest question. You can write very easily. So that's how we can write the answer. Write the differences between plants and animals. So I have finished the discussion of the broad question answer. After that, I will talk about the feedback. So feedback is going to be from today's lesson, and feedback is to check how well you have understand the topics. So as I always say that questions are not going to come directly from the sample broad questions. These are to show you that how questions are going to come, but there will be slight changes in the question. You should understand the topic, then you will learn, so that you can answer any kind of question. So let's see the feedback question. The question is, where do we get to see new metaphor in Bangladesh? Explain that environment. So tell me, In which environment do we get to see pneumatophore? Yes, we see in salty environment. So which one is the salty environment of Bangladesh? Sundarban. So you have to talk about Sundarban and the characteristics of plants and the example of plants that survive in that salty environment. We have answered already similar kind of broad question. So answer is exactly same, but you have to relate with the question. You can start the answer like, we get to see pneumatophore in Sundarban. Sundarban is the salty environment of Bangladesh. After that, in the same way you are going to answer this question. So that's how there will be slight changes in the question. You have to understand, then you have to answer. So from today I have discussed all the broad questions, sample broad questions, and I have also shown you that how there can be changes in the question and how you have to answer. So now I can give you homework. You have to learn all the broad question answer, and you have to also write one question which is PQA1, and your homework number is 3. The question is, how does cactus survive in the desert habitat? You will complete the homework and submit. And most important thing is you will have to learn the whole chapter. So go through each and every line of the chapter.
So hope whatever I have discussed today is clear to you now. If not, you can ask in the Zoom class. Your subject teacher will try to clear your confusion. So that was all for our today's class. Do some studies at home, take care of your health, and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.